Welcome to your deep dive. Today we're diving into Audrey Niffenegger's The Time Traveler's Wife. And you've sent over a really interesting mix of sources here. Wikipedia, some in-depth reviews. You're definitely after the full story on this one, huh?
Yeah, it seems that way. And you're right to be curious. It's not every day we get to explore love loss and free will
Mm.
all wrapped up in a time travel package.
Right, exactly. So, for anyone who hasn't cracked the spine yet, let's start with the basics. The Time Traveler's Wife centers around Henry, who's a librarian with a very unique condition that makes him, well, a time traveler, but
It's not quite as glamorous as it sounds, though, is it?
no, not at all. He can't control when or where he goes, and this obviously makes his relationship with Claire, the woman he falls in love with, very complicated.
And this is where Niffenegger's storytelling really shines.
Yeah.
You see, we get both Henry's and Claire's perspectives in first person, often experiencing the same events from both sides,
Oh, wow. I see. So you get.
which adds these incredible layers to their relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to be fascinating. Imagine meeting your future spouse when they're, say, 20 years older, and they already know every detail of your life together.
It really makes you think about how differently we experience time within a relationship.
Yeah.
There's this passage where Niffenegger describes Henry's time jumps as falling through the cracks of time. And it really struck me how often we can feel out of sync with our loved ones,
Mhm.
even without the whole chrono displacement thing.
It's true. It's like she took this wild science fiction concept and made it deeply relatable to just, our everyday lives.
Exactly.
So behind this really unique narrative is Audrey Niffenegger, and I was really struck to learn that she's an artist herself.
That she is, yeah, Niffenegger actually teaches book and paper arts, and you can really see that artistic sensibility woven throughout the novel, particularly in how Claire's own art becomes intertwined with their relationship.
Ah, that's so interesting. I read that the title The Time Traveler's Wife actually came to her first, inspired by a quote about time being like a wife.
Yeah.
Did you find any more information about that in your research?
I did. She was immediately drawn to the image of time as this constant companion.
Yeah.
Something that can both nurture and confine us at the same time. And she's also talked about how the story is partly inspired by her own experiences with love and her parents' marriage, particularly her father who traveled frequently.
Oh, wow.
So you could
That's really interesting.
see those threads of
Yeah.
her own life woven into the story.
So she took those personal elements, the complexities of time and relationships, and wove them into this tapestry of time travel and romance, which, by the way, makes it really hard to categorize this book. It feels bigger than just sci-fi or romance.
You've hit the nail on the head. The Time Traveler's Wife really resists easy categorization. You have the science fiction element, of course, but the real heart of the story lies in the exploration of this very, very complex relationship. Niffenegger herself has even said that she doesn't see it as strictly science fiction.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
While we do get glimpses into the mechanics of Henry's time traveling, it never overshadows the emotional core of the story. Unlike some other time travel stories that get bogged down in paradoxes, this one focuses on the very human impact of Henry's condition.
Absolutely. It's more interested in the emotional ramifications of loving someone who is constantly slipping through time than in explaining the hows and whys of time travel.
Right. And that leads us perfectly into what I think is at the heart of the book, Love and Loss. This isn't just your typical love story. It's so much more than that. So how does The Time Traveler's Wife go beyond just the romance?
Well, the unpredictable nature of Henry's time traveling becomes this powerful metaphor for the challenges that are inherent in any relationship. Miscommunication, missed connections, that feeling that you're not quite on the same page as your partner.
Yeah, and it's even more poignant because Henry sometimes has foreknowledge of the future.
That's such a crucial point. There's an inherent sadness, a bittersweetness that permeates their love story because Henry is sometimes burdened with knowing how things will unfold, especially when it comes to loss and death.
Which makes you wonder, does Henry have any control over his time traveling, or is he just along for the ride? And this is where Niffenegger brings up that age-old question of fate versus free will.
Precisely. The novel constantly challenges us to consider whether knowing the future negates our free will or simply offers a different perspective on it.
Like when Henry has foreknowledge of 9/11 but chooses not to interfere, what does that say about fate, free will, and our ability to change the course of events?
Such a powerful example. It suggests a certain acceptance of fate, wouldn't you say?
Right.
It raises more questions than it answers, and that's part of what makes this book so captivating.
It makes you think, if you were in Henry's shoes, knowing what you know now, would you make the same choice? But let's shift gears a bit and talk about how this really unconventional, thought-provoking novel was received when it first hit the shelves. Did it resonate with readers?
Oh, absolutely. The response was overwhelmingly positive. It shot up the bestseller lists, garnered awards, gained international acclaim. Clearly, it struck a chord with a very wide audience.
So what were people saying about it? What resonated with them?
Critics and readers alike were really captivated by Niffenegger's ability to craft these believable characters, especially Henry.
Which is interesting because at first glance, a time-traveling librarian doesn't exactly scream like relatable protagonist.
You'd think so, right?
Mhm.
But despite his extraordinary ability, Henry is portrayed with such humanity. He's impulsive, he makes mistakes, and his constant disappearances take a real toll on him and on those he loves.
Yeah, it's that vulnerability, those flaws that make him relatable even when he's making decisions that maybe we wouldn't agree with.
Exactly, and Niffenegger doesn't shy away from the kind of messier aspects of their relationship either. She portrays the arguments, the frustrations, the sheer effort that it takes to make a connection work under such extraordinary circumstances.
Which makes their love story feel even more, real and earned. But I imagine not all the feedback was glowing. Were there any criticisms?
There were some critics who, while appreciating the novel's ambition and heart, found the writing style a bit melodramatic at times.
A little heavy on the emotional intensity.
Yes, some critics felt the prose occasionally veered into, overly sentimental territory,
Yeah.
which of course might not appeal to every reader's taste.
Right. Everyone connects with different styles. But regardless of those critiques, The Time Traveler's Wife clearly resonated beyond the page. It's been adapted into audiobooks, which I imagine are just incredible given the dual narratives.
The audiobooks really enhance the reading experience. I think hearing both Henry and Claire's voices, their distinct tones and emotions, it just brings a whole other dimension to the story.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, would you rather have the story unfold in your mind as you read or be completely immersed in that audiobook experience? It's
I
a tough choice. And then there's the film adaptation starring Rachel McAdams and Eric Bana, no less. Did the movie manage to capture the essence of the book?
Well, it's a visually stunning film, and the casting was spot on. However, it received a somewhat mixed reception.
Oh, what didn't quite translate to the screen?
Some felt the film, limited by its runtime, had to condense certain plot points, and in doing so, unfortunately sacrificed some of the novel's emotional depth. Others felt the chemistry between the leads, while present, didn't quite reach the same intensity as the book.
So perhaps a case where the book might be the preferred experience for some?
Possibly. But the film's existence, I think, speaks volumes about the novel's enduring impact and its ability to captivate audiences across different mediums.
Absolutely. And speaking of captivating audiences, drumroll please, Niffenegger is gracing us with a sequel.
Indeed, and it sounds like it will delve even deeper into the world of the time traveler's wife.
Okay, spill the tea. What can readers expect?
The sequel shifts focus to Henry and Claire's daughter Alba, all grown up.
So we're getting a whole new perspective on time travel and its effect on a family.
Precisely. It's been hinted that Alba might have a different experience with chrono impairment than her father, perhaps even possessing some control over her abilities.
Now that's intriguing. The possibilities are endless. What about romance? Surely a story about the DeTamble family wouldn't be complete without a little love.
You're absolutely right. The sequel introduces new love interests for Alba, adding another layer of complexity to her relationship with time travel.
This is getting good. A daughter who inherits her father's extraordinary ability navigating love loss and her own unique journey through time, Niffenegger has outdone herself.
It seems so. It's clear that The Time Traveler's Wife was just the beginning of a much larger story. And I, for one, can't wait to see where Niffenegger takes us next.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into The Time Traveler's Wife. Wow, we really covered a lot of ground today, everything from the mechanics of time travel to the emotional intricacies of love and loss, and then that ever-present question of fate versus free will. The Time Traveler's Wife really packs a punch.
It certainly does. It's so much more than just a novel, wouldn't you say? It's this really poignant exploration of what it means to truly connect with another human being, to sort of grapple with the limitations of time, and to find beauty and meaning in the midst of all the uncertainty.
It really makes you think about your own relationships, doesn't it? The challenges, the joys, the constant kind of negotiation of two separate experiences of time converging into one, shared journey.
Precisely. And the book's exploration of grief and acceptance, knowing that loss is inevitable, even with the awareness of time travel, that really resonated with me.
Yeah, me too. It's this really poignant reminder to cherish the moments that we have to really embrace the complexities of love and to find beauty in the impermanence of it all.
And perhaps even to find solace in the knowledge that even though time marches on the impact of the connections that we forge, the love that we share that continues to resonate.
Beautifully said. So, listener, as we wrap up our deep dive into The Time Traveler's Wife, we're left with this really thought provoking question. If you could send a message to your past self, knowing what you know now, what would it be? No need for a time machine, just a little food for thought. Until next time, keep diving deep.